here we are underneath the back of this Chevy 1500, and we found out earlier today that this rear end is not posi. One tire turns forward, one tire turns backwards, so that's not posi. What we're going to do, the guy that I gave this truck to 2 years ago told me that he welded it posi and it didn't work. Well, he said it worked. He told me that it was posi. So, oh, that isn't going to be nice, is it? Holy. These bolts are 12 mil. We're just going to pull out all these bolts. I need a hammer just to start tapping these things on. So we're going to get all these off, and then I'll be right back. We'll do a little bit of a time lapse or something. So I'm sorry about the darkness, but my wife's gone camping and she took all my shop lights with her. So actually I may have one. Hold on, let's see if I can find this. So now you guys can see the pumpkin. Let's get it so that you don't have a dark side on camera. There you go. Oh, I think I forgot one bolt in the very bottom. There was no light, so I couldn't see that last bolt. So you guys are probably saying, there's still one bolt at the top. Well, I want that left there so that when I remove this cover, it doesn't fall. I got an oil catch pan underneath. Just gonna pop this pumpkin open. Ooh, that is some nasty looking oil. It's all like chunky. That's not a good sign. Maybe he did weld the rear end of this, but the shape of the state of these bolts tells me he didn't. You guys ready for the moment of truth? Well, oh, that is disgusting. Look at all the shavings in there. Oh, there's so many shavings. There's bags. Oh, that's what it is. There's bags in it. There's some pretty big shavings down here on the bottom. Let's see if I can find these. There's some big chunks of weld right there. There's some pretty big chunks of weld in the bottom of this. So I'm going to go put the truck in neutral so that I can rotate it to get in and take a look at the spider gears. Now this is your pinion gear. Well, this is your ring gear. Your pinion's up front, and inside of here is your spiders. So he did weld this. He really did take the time and he did weld this rear end, but I guess his welds let go. Now you got to be careful because those welds can get caught between your ring and pinion and cause a lot of damage back here. That's why you want to make sure you have a lot of heat and a very powerful welder. I don't even use my MIG welder to weld these. I use a stick welder. On the smaller cars, sometimes I do use the MIG, but most times on V8s and V6s, I will use a stick welder back here because I know I can really crank up the heat and get good penetration with it so they don't snap off, so I'm not stuck with crap like that. So let's go get some rags, put the truck in neutral, and do a little overall inspection on this. So after about a 2 or 3 minute inspection, I've determined that he actually welded the teeth on the spiders. Now, some people say that's the better way to do it, some people say that's the worst way to do it. And why it's the better way is, so you're not 100% posi. It goes when you turn on dry pavement, then you have a little bit of play in the spider. So when you turn, you have a little bit of play until it locks up. But when you're really on it, it goes. But the problem is that's the issue. You have play. When you have play, then you have, I guess it's ramping torque is what I'm going to call it. I don't know the actual term of it. I should know the term of it, but I just can't think of it off the top of my head right now. And what I'm talking about is, say if you have something solidly welded and then you put it in gear and then you floor it, it has that amount of pressure on it. But say if you have it open welded where it's got a little bit of play, because that's what he had, it was just on the teeth. I like to weld the side of the sprockets instead of the teeth. So when you have just the teeth welded and you floor it, you have a little bit of twist where it can build more pressure and get a lot more torque on it to snap stuff. So it's kind of got a plus and a negative. It's better if you're on the street and you're driving to do this, because then you can make corners a little bit easier. But in the derby ring, I don't think that is the correct way to do it. I think that is the wrong way to do it on the teeth. So I'm going to get my welder in here. I'm going to do a couple little passes with the MIG. I'm going to be able to spin it so I can weld both sides, and then I'm probably going to break out the stick welder and do a lot more deeper penetration, higher temperature welding on the inside of this carrier. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through this hole right here. We're going to weld the side of the gear and the side of the gear to the carrier. We're not going to weld the front of the gears together, because I find then that way we can't remove the axles if they do break. These are not spring clip axles, so we don't really have to worry about that. But oh, they are spring clip axles, so we do have to worry about that. So spring clip, there's a little spring clip at the end of your axle to stop it from sliding out. So if I undo that clip, this whole axle will slide out. So don't undo that clip. Let's get welding, guys and girls. Sits right now, we have all the gears welded together. I didn't end up getting the big welder because I was actually pretty satisfied with the amount of penetration this wire feed was getting, and I was happy. This is not a performance rear end. This was a Ford 9-inch that I spent money on, like I did in my Bash for Cash car back in 2015. I had 4, 5, 6 gears. I had a spool. I had chrome only shaft. Let's just say it this way. If I cared about this rear end, I wouldn't have welded it. I would have put a spool into it. This is the cheap way of doing it. You don't have to take anything apart. You don't have to set anything up. What we're going to do now is just put some silicone all the way around it on the inside of the bolts. Again, this is going to be a junkyard rear end after this, so I'm not super concerned about any of this. Just like that. Now, how to get oil into these things is always a struggle. There is like a little fill thing here up at the front, but here in Canada, we're kind of known for rust. And basically, every time you go to get those things off, they snap and they're super tight. So what I do for junkyard rear ends is I drill a little hole away from the pumpkin, and I fill it up with oil in there, and I put a fair amount in. To be honest, I put way too much than what it should have, but I fill it up. And then, I know it's full, it slowly does leak out, but it works. It works for me, great for the derby arena. Again, if this was a Ford 9-inch or a 12-bolt rear end that I have money in, and nice gears, a spool, I'd do it properly. But if this was a nice rear end, it wouldn't look this crappy. So all we're doing is just throwing in all the bolts. Oh, there's the last one right over there. Now I actually did bend one of these bolts, so I'm going to put the very bent one, sorry, the most bent one up at the top. Because realistically at the top, no fluid's going to try to get out. There's no gravity's not trying to pull it down. There's my impact. Ready? Here's the bent one. Even though it's bent, it still tightens down. So now the rear end is welded, the cover's back on, and if you remember before, when I turned this tire ahead, that tire turned backwards. So let's try turning this one ahead. That one's turning forward now. Transmission's actually in drive, so that's why it's kind of hard to turn. The push-pull system's pretty hard to find gears. But there you go. No play. Everything's done. All we got to do is put oil in this now and we're done. I'll just take the filler tube, put it right through that hole, fill it up, it's done. So thanks everybody for watching, and that's how you weld the rear end. I wouldn't really recommend this on, like I said, an expensive rear end, but these trucks or cars that you're only planning to run once and throw in the trash, this is perfect. So thanks for watching. See you guys back here tomorrow. Truck's getting one step closer to being done, one step farther every day. Thanks for watching, guys.